this is the only endgame defending tutorial you need to watch. Today we are going to learn how to jockey, when to jockey, how to switch, when to switch, how to tackle, when to tackle, how to use second man press, when to use second man press, and much more. First up, we have to cover the basics, and we have jockey. How to jockey? There are two kinds of jockeying in this game. Like I always say, we have gas and brake technique, alright, and we have the running jockey. The running jockey is the most common one which you can see on the screen right now. It is performed by using R2 plus L2 or RT plus LT on Xbox. Alright, this is the most common way of jockeying which most players use in FC24. Next up, we have gas and brake. What is gas and brake? Well, it's nothing special. All you have to do is you have to use R2 to get close to the opponent, okay? When you get close, you let go of R2, you hold L2. Why L2? L2 is slow jockey. Slow jockey gives you more control, whereas R2 is sprint. It gives you the maximum speed. Additionally, you can double tap R2 button and reach higher speeds while sprinting, potentially allowing you to catch up to the opponent rather quickly. That is why quick step on defenders can be really important. Alright, now we know that there are two ways of jockeying, especially if you are a beginner, it is important to know. However, when to use them in game is a challenge which we will discuss, so stay tuned. Next up, we have tackling, guys. Tackling is one of the most effective ways of getting the ball back. Alright, it is something that you almost always have to do in this game. In previous iterations of the game, I always used to say you don't need to tackle. All you got to do is jockey and maintain your shape. Whereas this year, guys, it is very important to tackle. If you do not tackle in this game, you will struggle. Why is that? That is because if you have played previous iterations of this game, then you know that whenever we used jockey button and came close to the opponent, defenders would automatically win the ball back. However, this year, that's not the case. Most of the times you have to go for a manual tackle, which is why the anticipate plus playstyle on the defenders is so important, because it allows you for better tackles. Now the rule you should follow while tackling is this, that you have to use L2, okay, or LT on Xbox and go with the circle/B button. Why am I asking you to use the jockey button while tackling? Because when you are jockeying, guys, it gives you a better stance, you lock in and you perform better tackles. However, there are instances where you can use it without pressing the L2/LT button. So you have to wait for the opponent to not have a ball contact. When the ball is slightly further away from his feet, that is when you go for a tackle, right? Otherwise, you will miss it like I did over here, which is why the timing of the tackle is the most important thing, right? And jockey button allows us just to do that. It allows us to time our tackles to perfection. So you have to focus when the opponent is moving away, it doesn't have a ball contact. That is when you go with the tackle button. Now, what are the instances where the opponent isn't having a ball contact, guys? It's when the opponent is exiting a skill move, when he is dribbling, when he is coming out of a dribble, all right, when he is sprinting. That is often the best time to make a tackle because he's not having a ball contact. That is why I tell you guys not to sprint too much in attack. All right, these are simple rules that you have to follow. We are going to use advanced defending. All right, these are the defending controls. Pass block assistance is going to be on. Auto switching is air balls and loose balls for me. You can keep it at only on air balls as well, but I prefer this one. Auto switching move assistance is going to be low. All right. Right stick switching. This is where most people have problem. It is set to classic. We're using player relative 3 and closest to ball. These are the settings that I am using. Next, why have I showed you these settings? The reason is simple, because most people get confused. They don't know that they have to combine both right stick and L1 switching. It is not to say that you are only always going to use right stick switching. You have to combine both of them, and I'll show you how to do that. We will first discuss when to use jockey and when to use second man press. See guys, right now which button am I holding? I'm holding the sprint button because I have to cover the distance. And the most important thing that you have to keep in your mind is defensive positioning, all right? Because that is the key point we will have in our mind while defending. Now, defending isn't to say that 2 plus 2 equals to 4. In FIFA or FC, 2 plus 2 doesn't equal to 4. It is all about the situation and situational awareness, which not only applies to attack, but it also applies to defending. So obviously you need to know your formation and the fact that we are going to focus on keeping a straight back line. Okay, why do I say that? Because see, Bellingham is my center mid. He's my left center mid. And if I overcommit with him, I need to know that, okay, if I overcommit on the wing with Jude Bellingham, then this Mbappe will be free. And what will happen as a result? Ramirez, who is my LCM, will try to play RCM because now my RCM is out of position. So my defense will automatically shift towards the upper hand side of the pitch and the other side will be exposed. I need to know this. I need to keep this in my mind and then defend accordingly. If I am going to take a risk, I am going to take a calculated risk. I know what will be the consequence of pulling a player out of position. So what do? See, I stand and I let go of Bellingham because I don't want him to overcommit. So if the opponent decides to come back and recycle, I stay there and I have Bellingham back. See, which jockey buttons am I using? I am using L2 plus R2. Why am I using L2 plus R2? It is the running jockey, and usually I have told you guys, whenever you wanna actually intercept or keep distance between yourself and the player, you will go with the running jockey. See Rolfa, she is my left back, alright? And he is attacking the left hand side. So we need to keep enough distance. So we are jockeying back to let him come towards us. We don't want to overcommit with Rolfa. Why? Again, situational awareness. See, because Alexia is also running. If I am to overcommit with Rolfa, what will happen? I will give up space for Alexia. So I'm just jockeying back using running jockey. I want to keep my shape. I maintain position and don't give up too many gap. What happens as a result? He beats me. I use R2. When I get close, L2, R2 again. All right. And see, I have kept my shape, and now Bellingham is perfectly positioned where I wanted him to position himself. And again, see what happens? I am stationary. I wait. Remember, I told you we go for a tackle when the opponent isn't having a ball contact. See, at this very moment, I can see that he is not having a ball contact. The ball is further away from his feet. Because the ball is further away from his feet, I will click the circle button /B button on Xbox and win the ball back. It is not something that I am thinking about during the game. It is in my muscle memory from years of practice. So I end up winning the ball back. Now let's talk about right stick switching. This is a counter-attacking opportunity, alright? In such instances, if you were to spam the L1/LB button, guys, what will happen? You will not get the correct player immediately. That delay in switching might allow this opponent the split second to play that through ball in behind to Mbappe. So in such situations, we use right stick switching. So we can make deep switches away from the opponent, alright? So first we will flick the right stick towards Rio Ferdinand, and then we will track his run. Tracking the runs is very important. This is something the AI cannot do for you. See, we track his run and then we switch to another player, track his run again, and now I am only sprinting because there is no need for me to jockey. I want to accelerate to the highest speed possible. So obviously I am going to use the R2 button so I can accelerate to the highest speed without using the jockey. I cover that run. I switch off of Rolfo. I switch back into her. So using second man pressing. Now again, see, defense is in a shape. I am using L2 with Rio. So in case he decides to do a step over speed boost because he has space in front of him, we have Rio standing over there in his defensive stance. You have to know the OP skill moves. Which is the most overpowered skill move to burst past defenders? It is a step over straight. Remember, the word is straight. So he will exit towards Rio. We know that. We know the most overpowered skills. It allows us to build anticipation, which is the key in combination with situational awareness. So we do just that. We switch off of Rio. Now we have a perfect back four. All right. See, we use our midfielders, and now we are tracking his strikers. We can see the most dangerous passes are this one into Haaland, into Mbappe. And while at the same time, we are second man pressing with Alexia, who is our CF. We are using 62 depth, like we discussed with Coach Saf the other day. He uses 67, I am using 62 depth. And that allows for me to bring my strikers back and actually second man press with them. And I can put enough numbers behind the ball. Defending in numbers is also something very important. Because if the opponent goes one-on-one repeatedly, he is getting one-on-one in the game, what happens? It becomes hard for you to defend. 1v1 defending is really hard. So always try to put your opponent into a position where he has to beat many players, not one player. And we keep jockeying, we keep our shape. Now, why am I second man pressing again? Because see, obviously I need to apply pressure, because in this instance, if I don't apply pressure, then he will have too much time on the ball. This is called passive aggressive defending. I am passive with Bellingham and I am aggressive with Ramirez. It allows me to achieve two things at once. One, I am cutting a passing lane. Second is that I am applying pressure. You always want to achieve more than one thing at a time. That is the key. And see, we are actually doing that. He is forced to turn back. We are keeping our shape. We have a perfect defensive line. Haaland wins the header, but because we have a perfect defensive shape and we are able to achieve it by quickly switching between our players, we can make sure that he doesn't beat our defenders. And then once he is one-on-one, we are going to use L2 button /LT, like you can see, and stand. Just stand. You don't want to move too much. You don't want to move too much, because if you will move too much while jockeying, there's a big chance that the opponent will beat you. Let's rewind here, guys. See what happens here. I go with him, all right? I stand with him, and I'm also pressing the X button. Why am I pressing X button? One, because Bellingham is stronger than Cruyff. He can push him off the ball. Second, I am standing side to side. When you are standing side to side, you can go with the shoulder barge, which is X/A on Xbox. And also because he's not having a ball contact, that is an ideal opportunity for me to win the ball back. It is all about situational awareness. All right, pressing the buttons is one thing, but knowing when to press the buttons comes with practice. But before practice, you need the right kind of knowledge, which you are getting from this video. Talking about knowledge, guys, and the right kind of knowledge, why don't you hit that thumbs up button if you have learned something good today? So see, the opponent is building up and we have spotted the run. Okay, spotting runs is really important. You have to see which dangerous runs are being made. We can see the right back is triggered. Now tell me, is there any way in this world where I can quickly switch with L1 to my left back and cover that run? Obviously no. So what do? I'm going to flick my right stick towards Rolfo. I'm using 3 simple flick, knowing when to switch, not panicking. You guys make wrong switches because you panic too much, okay? We're not going to panic. We're going to switch to Rolfo and we are going to cover this run. See, we do exactly that. We switch to her, we run back with the R2 button, we stand, we keep our shape, and what will happen? We will end up winning the ball back, all right? It's all about knowing when to switch and how to switch. Now, this is a dangerous situation. And when I am coaching players, because I coach many players, this is the most common mistake I see. Not realizing the consequence of pulling a player out of position. See, Rio is my center back, right? If I go and try to challenge Mbappe, because my left back is already out of position, what will happen? I will leave too much space over here in the middle, and that will potentially allow him to make a pass towards Cruyff. So my movement over here shouldn't look like this, all right? I should be moving like this, so I can achieve 2 things at one time. I can cover the pass inside, and I can also apply some sort of pressure if he decides to come inside. We do just that. We keep our shape, forced to turn back. Then this is also important. Having a CM with the intercept plus playstyle helps you in these situations. See, Ramirez just wins the ball back thanks to that intercept plus. In this instance, again, we are having a compact defense. We are playing a 4-4-1-1. We know our formation. Every decision that we take on the field is going to come from the fact that we know our formation and we know the consequences. This is important, okay? So we are not going to overcommit our players, and we are always going to put 2 players in one position so we can defend in numbers, all right? Just see that. You see, anticipate plus, guys. This is an important play style. You need it, man. You really need it on your center backs. Knowing the play styles and playing to the play styles is really important. And on your fullbacks, relentless plus is very good because you can second man press for a long time. See what happens over here. We're going down. We are going with him. We're not overcommitting. So many players in this situation will widely overcommit. I would overcommit if my right mid was back, okay? I am waiting for her to come back so I can defend with 2 players. Keeping the shape is the priority of defense. So see, when I have enough numbers, that is when I go for the tackle. I could have rushed the tackle, but I wait for the perfect opportunities. Rolfo is there, all right? I cover the recycle inside. I have covered the recycle. Now I know he cannot recycle. There is no danger. Now this is the perfect opportunity to pounce on the opponent as compared to before. It is knowing about risk versus reward. What will happen if I take the risk? What is the reward if I go with that tackle? And the reward is to win the ball back in this situation. All right. Here is pressing, manual pressing. This is called manual pressing. We are going to combine right stick switching, L1 switching, and R1 second man press. All right. So with Peter Crouch, we are second man pressing because we know that he cannot go forward if we second man press. So that forces the opponent to turn back. Now, realistically, he has only 2 options: to play this pass, go with the switch, or third is to make this forced pass. And because we have a player who has intercept plus and we are sprinting towards the passing lane. If I was to use Jockey, I would struggle. I'm sprinting in that passing lane and I'm going to win the ball back because 2 plus 2 doesn't equals to 4 in FC24. If I tell you always use Jockey, I am wrong. If I tell you always spam tackles, I am wrong. If I tell you always use right stick switching, I am wrong. You have to develop the situational awareness. You have to know when to use which button, and that will only come with enough practice and the right kind of knowledge. See, here I'm quickly switching. I make an error. I let him make that pass through, but what happens? We switch to Rio Ferdinand because he has anticipate plus and we were jockeying. He wins the ball back. Again, with Renard, we are able to pounce on the opponent thanks to that anticipate plus. But you have to lock in towards the tackle like I taught you at the start of this video. If you will do it without locking in, you will struggle, and you are not supposed to spam tackles, alright? You have to time them. See, here, why am I moving backwards with Renard? I predict that he will do a step over straight. So how does the step over straight exit? It exits like this. So we have to buy ourselves time. How can we do that? By taking a couple of steps back and then pouncing. Passive and then aggressive. So we do exactly just that. We are also covering the passing lane. You saw how I moved up with Rio Ferdinand. We're also second man pressing, not allowing him too much time on the ball, and then eventually using anticipate plus. This is important, so watch it in slow motion and pay close attention to it. Sadly, for the people looking out for a shortcut, there is no shortcut. It is a learning curve. And how will you go through this learning curve? First, by realizing all the things that I have told you today, okay, and actually practicing upon them and doing conscious practice. First, you have to do enough conscious practice on something until it becomes a muscle memory. When it becomes a muscle memory, that is when you actually win more games and defend better. But every opponent attacks in a different manner. Every situation demands a different reaction. So I am going to teach you how you can react to these specific situations. But you also have a job to do, and that job is to know the meta of the game. What are the meta skill moves? What is the current meta? When to switch? How to switch? Okay? How to switch is easy. When to switch is the key. Why do people struggle when they are switching? Because they panic. Don't panic and switch with a purpose. Defend with a purpose, and your defense will improve. And trust me, this is literally the only defending tutorial you need to watch. Now click here to learn the best custom tactics on FC24.